if you drink, just before we get started, if you drink water just because you want to get hydrated, not because you're thirsty. Most of the time, a person's thirsty and they drink. But if you just drink water because, oh, I need to have another glass of water because I need to hydrate, you don't make a bracha on that. And that's only true for water, not any other liquid. Okay? Yeah. If you with pills anyways, if you take medicine with water, you don't make a shahakol for that. You can if you're thirsty and then take the pill. But generally speaking, if you're going to take a pill, a vitamin, whatever it is, you just do without yes. Yeah. Very cute. He did it. There, he acted it out, so to speak. Very good. He actually did it. Yeah. No, I'm not saying if you are dehydrated. I'm saying if you are just trying to hydrate yourself, and then keep yourself hydrated. Yeah. Right. Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Even more than that, if it's in front of you for hours and you just keep sipping on it, you don't make another bracha. Right. That's correct. Okay. So let's start. Today, as always, we learn Today also we have a few names like to learn. It's not Nishmotehem, it's Nishmatam, because it means each one. Well, whatever. Never forget that. Rav Moshe ben Chaim Eliezer, Sarah bat Menachem Mendel, Yehuda ben Avram Halevi, the relatives of Rhonda. Today is my wife's father's yard site, Leib ben Mitzal Halevi, who died at 49 years old. I actually knew from when I was a little kid. Yeah, he was 49, just before his 50th birthday. Yeah. Yeah, it's his 48th yard site, and Bezrat Hashem in 2 years be his 50th yard site already. In addition to that, my wife, as you know, got it from Shiva this week for her sister Bat Yechaya Bat Leib, Zichrono Libracha. And finally, on the other side of the coin, one more is tomorrow. I stopped saying Kaddish for this person I've been saying for a year. It's Yitzhak Meshulam Zichrono Libracha Ben Perot Shmuel, whose parents are alive, which is say it like that. And of course, for a refuah shlema for Noah Bat Shirit. Okay, now that we have yes, please. Rachel Chana Bat Rivka Zichrono Libracha, is it? Oh, Sicha, for refuah shlema. Okay, very good. Okay, in the small printing, we are on page. What about Shelley? Oh, that is. Oh, that's right. I knew that night. She's in the hospital. Well, in and out. Yeah. We are on page in the small book, page 121. We're near the end of the chapter. It's only taking us about 3 months. Anaf hashlishi hi hakima. Anaf hashlishi hi hakima. That's where we're going to pick it up now. Okay. So we said that in Havatash. Hu hakina, right? Well, it should be hu hakina because it's anaf is the ha, right? Kina he, but anaf hu. Very good. So we had said that the idea of Havat Hashem breaks down into 3 categories. We've already seen 2 of them. One was dveikut, clinging to God. Number 2 was simcha, which we spent pretty much last class on. And today we're going to talk about kin'ah and going a little further than that, I hope. Okay, first we have to translate the word. I'm assuming in your English it says zealous and not jealous, even though they're the same showish, actually, when you go back to the Latin or the Greek or Chinese or Swedish, whatever it is. It says jealous. Okay, well, that's not a good translation as far as I'm concerned. Jealous what do you mean you're jealous for God? Okay, it could fit, but it doesn't fit as good as zealous. Let me explain to you the difference in English and in Hebrew. Kin'ah means both. When you are, and he's giving this example actually, when you see someone who you love, child, a spouse, a friend, being humiliated, what do you feel? You don't feel jealous. You feel zealous about they want to protect the person. You want to help the person. You want to protect their honor, whatever it might be. That's not jealousy. Jealousy is, which is not a good character trait, but it is not lo tachmod. We've talked about this before, is, wow, that guy has a nice car. Man, I am so jealous. He gets to go on vacations all the time. He is so smart. She is so pretty. And all those things where I wish I were that. Feeling jealousy is, first again, against lo. That's not the 10th commandment of lo tachmod. That's first of all. That's a completely different approach. And number two is just a bad character trait. So zealousness and jealousy are two different things. And the way I will translate this, I'll just use the word kina, because both apply in Hebrew. For example, Pinchas ben Elazar HaKohen yeshiv et chamati me'al bnei Yisrael bekano et kinati me'al Yisrael. He was zealous for my zealousness, in a sense. We're going to see what that means also. Yeah, Martin, you would say something? No? Change your mind? It's nothing like no, Zrizut, and that's something else. Zrizut is doing something like we saw earlier in the book, trying to get to it as quickly as possible without sacrificing agile. Very good. Very good word. Very good word. But without sacrificing the intention you need to do. In other words, rushing through something. Sorry? Purity is different. Oh, yes. Oh, you're saying the second half of the sentence. Got it. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay. Let's talk the third branch, third subdivision is kina. What does it mean? So let me first give you an example before he talks. This is something that I will say I quote suffer from. I have a couple of friends who told me I take things too seriously in life. But there are things you have to take seriously. There are people who can read the newspaper or read an article online about the United Nations. I can't even say their name without coughing. Yeah. You know, the UN in English is a sholel. It negates something. Oh, that's true. It just negates everything. So they are uncooperative, unnecessary, etc. Anyways, the UN, I read an article about another anti-Israel thing, or they want to take the Palestinian made-up people, want to take the real people, the Jews, to Israel to criminal court. And some people will read that and go, oh, whatever. But I get this rage inside of me. Like, this is like, you're talking about my people, our people. You're talking about Hashem. It's an affront to Hashem. And in a sense, that is a form of this. I don't do it on purpose. Oh, I'm going to be Mr. Kina today. It's like, this is who I am, you know? And like, and the older I get, the more it bothers me when I hear these things. And I have this one friend, I won't say his name, says, oh, it's never going to change. Andy asks me every day, so what's new in the world? My response every day is, they all hate us and want to kill us. Okay, it's not true. I know that, but that's the feeling that I get. Sorry. There are plenty of people out there who do love the Jews. Yes. Some of them, sorry? Maybe 4. No, but there are some who do love the Jews. And a few of them actually love the Jews for completely, what's the word? You do it for no reason. Altruistic, right? It's altruistic love. They really just love the Jews. There are a lot of them who love them because of the Jews, because it fits into their protocol of what needs to be coming in the future for a Messiah. Okay, boy, are they going to be surprised. So I have in my head, I don't know if I've said this in this class, I have in my head a picture of what happens the day Mashiach arrives. How do we all find out that he has arrived? So, and there's absolutely no basis for this, but this is something I've always felt. It's not belief, it's just I think that at the exact same moment, every single one in the world will hear the voice of Hashem announcing the coming of Mashiach, that he's here, in their own language that they will understand. And so all of a sudden, that the whole world is the Malay De'ah, the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of God and understand that Mashiach has come. Of course, he'll be taken to the Hague criminal court, right? But other than that, I'm just looking forward to seeing their faces of those guys when Mashiach comes. I'm looking forward to Mashiach, but also just like, gotcha, booyah. And because I'm very mature like that. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, that you are zealous for God, for his name. So misanav, you hate those that hate him. And you try to not subjugate, that's not really the right word, but to try to get them to become subservient to Hashem, in order that Hashem's honor and the service of Hashem should be done, and his honor should be glorified or increased. In other words, if you say that kin'ah, zealousness for Hashem, is because you just feel bad for God, that's one thing, but there has to be a reason that we want to be zealous, because we want to increase the kavod of Shemayim. That's what David said. Alo misanecha Hashem esna, you're those who hate you, I will hate. Uvitkomemecha et kotat. And I will rise up against those who want to cut you down. That's not really the right translation. Tachlit sinas neitim Eliyahu amar kano kineti l'Hashem tzvakot ukvar ha'inu. I'm speaking a bunch of psukim. Lama zacha ba'avur kinato le'elokav. What did Eliyahu? What was he zochet to because of his kina for Hashem? Kamamar katuv tachat shekinei le'elokav vayichaper al bnei Yisrael. This is about Pinchas, because Pinchas and Eliyahu were the same person according to the Midrash. That's why he mentions Eliyahu was zochet to that, even though it's referring to Pinchas. Ukvar hifligu chachamei zichronim lebracha, and also the chachamim were very extolled the praises of those about those who said the daber b'mishiyesh bi'ado limchot, not to praise, but to say the daber b'mishiyesh bi'ado limchot ve'eno mochet. A person who has the ability to say something and speak up for the honor of God and doesn't, v'gazru dino litafes b'avon achotim atzmo. He's caught up in the chet of that person. Let me explain what that means on two levels. First, what he's talking about here. If someone is doing something that detracts from the Kvod HaShamayim, the honor of God, and it's a person with whom you have a rapport, and you could do something about it and say something and don't, then you're as culpable. And by the way, that's true about halacha as well. Let's say I see someone doing something wrong. Now, I would never go up to them saying, dude, don't you know anything? Right? It's the wrong, you don't do that. If you know that the person would accept what you're going to say, then you have an obligation to say something in the nicest way possible, not to hurt somebody. And I'll give you an example of one idea. Because if not, now this is a burden, true burden, that I will tell you honestly that I felt, I still do, but especially when I was officially in the shul as a rabbi, that if things are going wrong in the shul and I don't say something about them, I'm on the line for it, me personally. Same thing is true with my whole life, from that point since then. But especially when I had an official position, and that's why I did speak up eventually about a lot of things. Again, it took time. I didn't do my first week, walk in your first week and say, okay, here's what you're doing wrong. This scroll, sinners, pray to the Lord for your souls. Have all the people coming with the torches. So I'll tell you an example of something I did once. There was a gentleman who, again, if I may have said this in here, I apologize if I repeat stories, but hopefully if I don't remember, if I said it, you don't remember the story. There was a gentleman who, when we have Kiddush in the United States, as you know, most shuls, unlike here, we'll have a Kiddush after davening, many shuls. Unfortunately, they also have during davening, which is what I was able to stop after 5 years. I'm very proud of that. And some of you may be aware of, do you know what a groaning board Kiddush is? Groaning board, you might know what that is, yeah. It's so they refer to their Kiddush and shul as a groaning board because they put the food on a table, but there's so much it's groaning from the amount of weight of food on it. Yeah. And then you go to the Shalom Zachar that have about $3,000 worth of alcohol on the table, and it's always fun. Anyways, where was I? Oh, so there was one gentleman who I happened to notice every week was taking a shot glass. It's okay, you're allowed to own $3,000 worth of alcohol, but to put it all out for a Shalom Zachar, little wild. Sorry. My own humble opinion. Yeah. I don't know nothing because I don't drink. Well, rarely.
What's the interest of a person?
Moving on. So I happened to notice this one gentleman was taking a shot glass and filling it with grape juice to make kiddush. Now, if you fill it with schnapps, then that's fine because there's chashivut. That has a level of importance. That's a shot, and you can make kiddush and make shakol. But if you're taking it with wine or grape juice, there's no chashivut. You have to make a bori priya gefen, but there's no chashivut for kiddush. You have to have at least, we say, an ounce to 3.3 ounces. Not bad. It's about 3.5 shot glasses worth of wine or grape juice. So I went over to him. I said, I want to mention something to you. And I know you well enough to know that you would like to know this. I don't say, you're doing it wrong and this is what you should do. I say, look, from my perspective, I am sure you'd want to know. And he thanked me profusely. He says, I never knew that. So from then on, he had a shot glass of schnapps. No, he had a regular, made a little cup of grape juice to make kiddush for himself. So it's not only how you say it, and not only what you say, it's how you say it. So if you alienate someone and then they daf go on to do it, that's even worse. So why do I say if you're not going to listen to you, don't say anything? There's an expression halacha. Tov shehiyum shogegin value mezidin. Better they should be doing something by accident than doing it on purpose. When I used to post, I mentioned this before, the halacha tip. I used to post one halacha a week in the show and send it out for like 570 weeks in a row. It was really cool. And there were people who would walk by and they'd read the title and go, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And the truth is, better they shouldn't. They're not going to try. And very basic stuff also, not like this real deep, heavy stuff. Okay, that's fine. So a person has to be very careful. They don't have to be, a rabbi, a teacher, a leader in a community. Everybody, we have a responsibility each for the other person in a proper way, in a gentle way, especially within our own home, in order to see to it that whether it's going against Kod Shamayim or it's something they're not doing the halacha properly, to say something. Umidrash echa amru. Says as follows. What does it mean in Echa when it says Hayu Sareha Ka'ayali? That its leaders, we're talking about Yushalayim, the downfall of Yushalayim. That its princes, its leaders were like deer. Ma Ayalim Alalu, Bishat Sharav, Ofchim Pnehem Elu Tachat Elu. What would happen in time of Sharav? We have Sharav here all the time in the summer, right? We have this windstorm and dust, What do they do to protect themselves? They bury their faces one under the other's body just to hide. Kachayu Gedolei Israel. This is exactly what the Gedolei Yisrael did in the time of the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, before it. They would see people sinning, and they would turn away their face. What does this mean? It's an indictment of leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to be a leader? The word leader in Hebrew is manhig. It's the same shoresh as minhag, same shoresh as nahag, nehigan, minhagut, minhagim, all these things. Interestingly enough, now this is a parentheses within a parentheses. The word minhag, if you switch around the letters, you get the word gehinom, hell. Because sometimes people are so careful about their minhagim, they put away the halacha. And so they don't do the halacha properly. And sometimes they fight over minhagim. And therefore, that becomes a straight path down to gehinom. But okay, end of that parentheses. So, nun hey gimel, you're on a bus, and you very often hear, nahag, nahag. Why? Because they didn't open the door for you. Or there's someone trying to get on the bus and he's closing the door already. Whatever it might be. Maybe 3 times I've yelled, not even yelled, like, nahag. And once it was a woman. And so the guy turns out and says, nahag it. Okay, thank you. But actually, I like to know if I make a mistake, I want someone to tell me. I really do. So what does the nahag do? What does he do? Or she?
It's a method of transportation, hopefully safely.
Hopefully safely. Right. So basically, he's driving people from one point to another, right? Well, have you ever sat in a bus and said to yourself, let's say it's a regular route, I'm not talking about some fancy schmancy trip or something, and said to yourself, wow, I wonder if he knows where he's going. You take the 174 or 164 from Yerushalayim. It's a driver who always drives. Okay, it's not a brand new, fresh off the boat driver. You ever see yourself, I wonder if he knows how to get to Maleadu? No. But what do people do? Gee, I wonder if God knows how to run the world. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? It's not my line. I saw this. This is from Rav Arush, from Chut Shel Chesed. And it's true. So coming back to what does it mean to be a leader? Technically, the bus driver is not a leader, but what he's doing is he's moving a group of people from one location to another. He's getting from point A to point B. A leader is supposed to try to get people from point A to point B to point C, point D. If they don't, imagine you get on the bus and the driver just sits. I've had that. Because he's not, and I don't blame him, because sometimes you have people on the bus who should be tossed off. He just sits or he'll pull over. So, but let's assume everything is fine. And there's no issue with the bus or the bus driver or the people on there. He just sits. So he's not in the hag. Technically, he's in the hag, but he's not in the hagging, right? He's not driving. He's not no hag. So in the book I wrote, 3 images. There's one image that's a bumper sticker. So if any of you read the book, you may remember this. That there's a bumper sticker that is on the back of many trucks and cars. It says "Ech ani noheg," how am I driving? But it also has a double meaning, the word mitnaheg, like how am I acting? So I said, what would it be if we all had a bumper sticker on ourselves? Like if people had to call a number direct line to God. Hey, listen, this guy's man, he really is doing a bad job this year, right? So to be a leader means to actually do something. You can't be passive. You have to be proactive. All of us are leaders. He said, only these people. Every single one of us is a leader in some way, whether it's in our own home, of ourselves, of our families, in our community somehow. You get involved in a project, you become a form of a leader. And it comes with responsibility. And that's what he's saying here. Now, there's a Mishnah in, I don't remember. If you remember, please tell me. It says, what is one of the signs of just before the time of Mashiach? Pnei dor, pnei hakelet. That the generation, the face of the generation, is like a dog, like the face of a dog. What does that even mean? So it's referring to the leadership of the generation. Now, for those of you who have dogs, what happens as you're walking your dog? What does the dog do sometimes besides their business? Okay, what do? They turn around, right? They like kind of look, are you there? So what does it mean that the leaders of the generation are like the face of the dog? That leaders aren't leading. They're just looking back what the people want. They're being driven by the people. And that's what was the problem with Shaul HaMelech when in his time, when he was told by Shmuel, I'm really going far afield now. When Shmuel tells Shaul that you have to wait for me 7 days before you bring the Korban, Gilgal, and he comes and then Shmuel gets there and he says, dude, what'd you do here? Why'd you already bring the sacrifice? Oh, well, they were I was under pressure from the people. He says, that's not leadership. Sometimes the leader has to bend to the will of the people. If the leader, he or she realizes that he or she is wrong. And that's fine. Because being a leader doesn't mean you're always right. Being a leader also means to say, I'm wrong, and saying, you're right, we're going to go with a different direction. It could be you own a business, right? You do something online, whatever it might be. So here, it's saying that one of the things that led to the time of the destruction of Beit HaMikdash was that the leaders weren't leading. Let's move on. Okay. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said to these leaders, Tavo Hashav ani e'esed lahem ken. I'm going to do the same thing to you. What does that mean? I'm trying to see, I'll turn my face away from you. You don't want to be involved in the people? I'm your leader. I'll turn my face away from you. It's called Hester Panim. V'zeh pashut. This is obvious, simple. Kimi shohev et chavero. Person who loves his friend. It would be terrible, it would be impossible, I would hope, for you to stand by, to see your friend being hit, to see your friend being embarrassed. For sure, he would step up for the individual. So too, someone who loves God. He should not be able to stand back, see people, and going against his mitzvot. Now, there's a difference between not being religious and being mechalel shem Hashem, and by not doing mitzvot. I know I'm parsing my words here, but let me try and explain the difference. A person who dafka does things on Shabbat, whatever it might be, that they shouldn't do, because they want to show that I want to do this, that's a chilul Hashem. Hashem, and it doesn't mean you're supposed to do anything to the person. If you have a relationship with them, then you do other responsibilities. I said to try to involve yourself somehow in that. But a person who they didn't grow up religious, they don't know any better, then they do what they're doing. That's not necessarily a chilul Hashem. It doesn't fall in the same category. There is a concept of something called tinok shenishpat. Literally means a child or baby that was captured, which doesn't apply in Israel. What does a tinok shenishpat mean? Person's born in a Tamwa, Iowa, right next to Radar O'Reilly, and born in Ottumwa, Iowa, and there was a Jewish community there, so let's not choose that. Somewhere, he's born in someplace, and didn't grow up. There's no Jewish day school. Maybe there's a Chabad there that comes once a year to shech some meat for the three for religious families. Doesn't know any different. Where? Park Rapids, Minnesota. There you go, Park Rapids, Minnesota. Okay, that's good. I was actually in Red Wing, Minnesota for a couple of days. Yeah, beautiful. It was gorgeous. Yeah, beautiful place. And so you can't blame this. They're no different than a child that was kidnapped as a child or captured and put somewhere among the non-Jews, and they don't know any different. That's a tinok shenishbat. There are those who say, I'm pretty sure that's the accepted idea, that in Israel there's no such thing as tinok shenishbat. You are surrounded by Judaism. Even a person who lives in the most irreligious community whatsoever, in the anti-religious community, they still know what Pesach is. They still know what Hanukkah is. They still know what Shabbat and Tefillah and Mezuzah and Challah. They all know. You're almost not going to find someone in Israel who lives here for a period of time that doesn't know something about religious life. So you can't necessarily say that there's such a thing as Tinok Shenishba in Israel. Sure, go ahead.
You said person who deliberately does something on Shabbat. That's a difference in somebody who's not Shomer Shabbos, is
Right.
aware,
Yes.
but is doing something just because they treat it like a Wednesday.
Correct.
They're not doing it.
They're not doing
dafka.
lahachis, they're not doing dafka. So I can't say necessarily that the person who's just, because they're doing it because that's who they are and that's what they're holding, that's necessarily a chilul Hashem. Depends. But if they're doing it lahachis, I'll give you an example. For those of you learning Tanya or learned, you may be aware of the fact that the Alter Rebbe, the Admor HaZaken, the multiple generations down, his great whatever son-in-law, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, the last, or they call the Rebbe, right? The Rabbi, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember Shabbat or Yom Kippur, his brother would come stand outside the shul and smoke. And I think it was Yom Kippur, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes we picture all these unbelievable Gedolei Yisrael who literally changed the face of Judaism and religion in our lives. They also had families with problems sometimes. Plenty of times you see that. Sometimes more often than not. I have a friend who has 2 sons and 1 daughter. The one son not religious, the daughter and the son religious. And she says that she would come sometimes to the States for bar mitzvah, and she'd hear the rabbi say, or she'd go to a funeral, say, wow, that all the children and grandchildren, are all religious. And she would always be offended by that. So while it is a good thing that they may all be religious, to put that in the face of everybody else is problematic. She says, well, what does that mean? That I'm no good as a parent anymore? What did I do? So we have to be very careful. Sometimes our words and more than our actions drive away somebody within our own family, within our neighborhood, within our community. We all know stories like that. All of us that have caused pain to others. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's irreparable. Most of the time, even though you think it might not be repairable, it is. It just takes time. And the benefit of that, you will never understand until after 120 years. Last Mishnah, and all Mishnah at Uktzin, famous one, you all know it, because you probably heard it hundreds of times. Lo matzah hakadosh baruch hu kli machazik bracha ela hashalom. The only utensil Hashem found, as it were, to hold bracha is peace. Because without peace, you don't have a complete picture. So that when you do bring peace, when you've had this argument or discussion or problem within the family or outside the family, and especially it's over religion, and you have found a way to reconcile, then you have brought peace into the world. Every single thing, and I've mentioned this multiple times, matter of fact, recently, every single thing that we say in almost every area of our prayer ends with shalom. Kaddish, Kedusha, Shmona Esrei, Aleinu, well, not Aleinu per se, Birkat Kohanim, Birkat Hamazon, everything. Because we could have all the bracha in the world, but if we're missing shalom, if we're lacking peace, then we're really missing something big. Yaakov Avinu says to Hashem, he sounds like he's making a deal with God, and it's not. He says, if you'll be my God, v'natan li, it's not v'natan, it's v'natan li beged lilbosh v'lechem le'ochel, you'll give me clothes to wear and food to eat, then I'm going to follow you, God. Okay, again, it's not a deal he's making, but what does it mean? If you give me clothes to wear and food to eat, what else you do with the clothes? You don't eat them. What else you do with food? You don't wear them. So he's saying, I could have all the clothes in the world, and we know people like this. I could have all the food in the world, but never the person's sick and they can't wear them, or they're sick and they can't eat, or they get, they got sick and the clothing don't fit them anymore, whatever it might be. The lack of shalom. You could have everything, but if you're missing that piece, you're missing a lot. And therefore, coming back to here, we're saying that when you can reconcile, and you can help someone get on the straight and narrow, fantastic. If you, especially personally, not you, but anyway, personally was the cause of someone becoming non-religious or something, it's on you to work on that, to try to find a way to reconcile. That's extremely important because it continues to be a continuous chilul Hashem, that person is not following Torah because of something you may have done. Now, if something was a misunderstanding or a fight, I'm not talking about that. It's the people who are aggressively shoving religion down their children's throat. That's what I find a lot, unfortunately. I'm not of the school of forcing things down kids' throat. You have to explain, teach, cajole. And yes, there's a difference in age, whether the child is 5 or 15 or 25 or 65. It makes a difference, of course, in how you relate to the child. But it says here, what we're hearing is that we cannot sit back, lisbol, to suffer and watch the name of Hashem be desecrated, in quotes, when we are not allowing or when we enable something to go wrong. If we can fix it, then again, the sachar, the reward is immeasurable.
I would think that it's okay to throw rocks at basket cars.
Okay, good point. Excellent. Okay, so here he just says, if I read this just stam, that I would think it'd be okay to throw rocks on passing cars. Shabbos. What's that? Mukhan. So first of all, they're not muksa because they put them aside for Shabbos. That's correct. Okay, I know it's remote control. Yafeh. I like that. Yafeh. Unfortunately, I flew in more places than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bring up a very good point, which I would like to actually to address when we finish this chapter. But I want you to remind me, please. I will mention one thing though. I used to get the Jerusalem Post every day, and then I decided to stop for various reasons, and I just get it for the Friday edition. There was an article a couple of weeks back by Greer Faye Cashman, and in there it was about what she referred to as the extremist Haredim with the rock throwing, all that. And I wrote a letter back, and it was actually printed last week ago, I think, week and a half, whatever. And basically, I said in there that first I thanked her for the article that she wrote. I said there's one flaw in hers and other articles of less nature. They're not extremists Haredi. They're terrorists. What is the purpose of terrorists? Look up the definition to instill terror and fear in the people to whom you're directing your actions. And that's what they're doing. Okay. They're also, unfortunately, some of them are mentally ill. I mean, obviously, and others are just drones that follow what their rabbis who have bigger problems than you and I will ever have. Who have cajoled them into doing such a thing. And that falls very far away from the rock throwing being okay according to this. You should ask even to add to that, why don't you just say, well, we should be like Pinchas? We see someone doing something wrong, take out our spear and, right? Forget the rocks, right? So if I get to the end of this chapter, maybe even next week I'll do it, and I don't address it, please remind me, okay? Because it's an extremely important topic. Humash Amar Shlomo. This is what Shlomo said in Mishlei, Ozvei Torah yahalu rasha, v'shomrei Torah yitgaru ba. Ki otam shemehalim rasha, those who praise the rasha b'rishato in the action of his evilosity, v'lo yochichu al panav mumo, and they don't give him a what for, like, you're doing something wrong. Hinehem ozvei Torah, they themselves are also leaving Torah, umanichim ota shi titchalel chas v'chalila, and they're enabling, they're allowing this chilul Hashem to continue. Those who keep Torah and strengthen it and hold on to it, for sure, they will deal with it and they will not be able to hold back and stay silent. V'amar Kadosh Baruch Hu el Iyov, and Hashem said to Iyov, you can please read that and translate the English for me, please. Someone just read it out loud if you got the English. Eov, the book of Job, 40:11. You can't see. I'll hold it over here for you to read. That's fine. It's fine.
Right here, the body.
You're right after that in that paragraph, yeah. Should be a quote from Eov or Job. It says, there we go.
Those who forsake.
Yes.
Those who forsake Torah praise the wicked.
Oh no, a little bit after that. Just the next quote. where it
For
says,
those who glorify with your hand.
keep going.
Oh, my God.
It says where God said to Job,
Spread out the fury
Oh.
of your wrath, and take note of the one who is light, and humble him. One,
yeah,
take note of the one who is haughty, subdue him and crush the wicked. Oh, I like this.
that's why I wanted it to be read out loud.
Yeah, crush the wicked and fall.
Okay,
Bury them together in the dust, their countenance sealed in a hidden place.
there you go. Now that sounds pretty strong, right? Yeah, but you know, we say something like that every single day of the weekday. We do. Right. Right. It's all these different verbs. When I've taught this over the years about what, like, how do we as Jews, don't we sound very achzari? Don't we sound very cruel to say all these verbs? They're like crush and destroy and pummel. And here it says to bury them in a hidden place. Like, wow. Okay. Whether it's meant literally, which you'd like, or meant figuratively to give us this passion, it means we have to do it. It's obviously, let's put ourselves in the perspective of Hashem for a minute. Your child, your spouse is in the park, and there's a teenager pounding their head. God forbid. What do you, not what you're going to do, what would you want to do?
Break his neck.
Break his neck. Your child is being pounded by someone. What would you want to do to that someone? Not what you're going to do. Kill him, throw him off a building, chop his head off, whatever, right? You're not going to generally do it, right? Unless you're me. Not only have I thought about it, I've had a plan. Don't ask. I will never reveal. I actually was having a discussion on Shabbat with someone about that. And I dreamt then Friday night about being put in jail for having taken care of someone. What's that? Oh, thank you. It's so sweet of you, bring matzah. Very good. And bring kitniot as well. So, if you feel that rage, that anger, that how can someone be mechalel shem Hashem? You feel the same way you feel about your child, so to speak, in the situation. That shows you how you feel about Hashem and about His name, and not wanting to see Chil Hashem. Thank you. That those who love Hashem will hate evil. It's what he's saying there. This last sentence is: how do I know if I am doing the right thing when it comes to kina? If you feel this upset feeling with people, whether it's the UN or whoever I mentioned before, or it's just somebody who Dafka wants to, we have to continue having the things open on Shabbat because blah blah, whatever it might be. Pick your quote poison, and it makes you feel bad. And even if you could do something about it, you would do something about it. Then you fall in this category of Ohavei Hashem Sinuva, and it's helpful, even if you don't end up doing anything, because you feel that. You feel that jealousy, quote unquote, and that zealousness. Okay, we're going to stop here. Next week, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to talk about kavanah. And I just want like a word of it in advance. I've said many, many, many times ad nauseum probably, how many times and how often what we learn in Mesilat Yesharim is paralleling that which we're learning in Tanya. And for those of you learning Tanya, when we come next week to this topic of kavanah, you'll understand it even more so, what we've been doing. And after kavanah, we're going to talk a little, it takes the topic of kavanah or intent and thought when you're doing a mitzvah, davening. It's going to take that most of the way to the end of the chapter, and then we'll have a little summary, and maybe we'll finish the chapter one of these years. So, all right. Have a great day, everybody. And good to see you.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad. Thank you.